Hello and welcome to my Nürburgring Nordschleife lap guide for ACC. Firstly, I'm just going to start off by saying that ACC's not been my main sim for quite a while now, so it's taken some time to get used to it again, and the lap's probably not as optimal as it could have been, but I've done my best to give you guys a clean and decent lap to learn from. For the first turn, we're looking out for this service road on the left side of the road there, and we're braking about halfway along it, and braking really hard all the way to the left side of the road here, opening up our entry line for this first tight turn here. And we're going to slow the car right down, and we're bringing the car right to the inside curb here, but don't cut it too much, because if you do, you'll end up hitting the ground quite hard at the bottom there, and it'll unstabilize the car. So slow it right down, and then bring the car back to the right a little bit, because we want to open up our entry line for the left turn. We can have a little burst on the throttle between the two turns here, and then touch the brake just a little bit to slow the car down enough for this turn. We can cut that little curb on the left side there just enough to shorten our line a bit, and we want to have a nice tight exit here and straighten up the car as much as possible to get the best traction. What we don't want is to bring the car out too wide too early. We just won't get the exit speed like we will if we get the car as straight as possible on exit. Now, another thing worth mentioning is that in the first two turns just there, I've used traction control 2, and I'm going to turn it off for the rest of the lap. This car just seems to do well without traction control on. For this turn, we're going to start braking at the far side of the service road that we've just gone across on the right here, and then trailing the brakes into this turn, carrying a bit of speed in, also balancing our steering inputs. And we want to come as close as we can to this inside curb without getting onto it too much, because it can sort of push us wide, and then getting back on the throttle, going all the way to the outside and moving a little bit back towards the left to slightly open up our entry line here, braking just before that curb on the inside starts. Then we're trailing the brakes and hugging the inside curb quite tight here, and about halfway through we're going to start getting on the throttle again. Don't get up on that inside curb, it will reduce your grip a little bit, and then getting on throttle a little bit. If you're uncomfortable with the traction control off, run it with it on. You'll only lose a little bit of time, and you have to be right on the edge to get the most of having traction control off. On exit there, make sure you don't touch the sand because you'll lose some time. And I will mention that I'm using the Coach Dave qualifying setup for this lap. For this turn, we're just going to be braking a little bit after that Decker sign on the left, or where the track starts to curve there. That's going to be where we start to brake. Getting on the brakes quite hard and then trailing the brakes as we enter the turn. We're going to double apex this turn. You see I move slightly outwards in the middle of the turn, and then we come back towards the apex later in the turn, making sure that we don't get up on that inside curb because it will put us into a bit of an oversteer. Then again, using the exit curb, just don't touch the sand because again that'll cost you some time. Now for the Schumacher S, this requires a very precise line. We're going to bring the car all the way to the right side of the track, up on this curb a little bit to open up our entry line just a little bit, and then we're just going to start turning in quite hard and aiming for that inside curb. We're going to have to take a little lift off the throttle just a bit, very briefly, and then get back on throttle onto this inside curb. Don't get onto the grass. It requires a very, very precise line through there to get it as close to flat as you possibly can. Using all the curb through here, again, just don't touch the sand, but use all the curb, and then carry our speed right to the outside on exit, all the way to the left here. We'll probably end up on the curb again. And again, just avoid that sand. On to the next turn, we're looking for where the grass starts on the right side of the road here. So right where that 100 board is, we're going to be braking about a car length before that, all the way to the outside of the track, putting our right side wheels outside the white line, braking hard, and then we're going to trail in, try to carry as much speed as we can over this inside curb here, lifting off as we get to the curb, and then about halfway through we're going to start getting on throttle again, and there we go. But we don't want to go too far to the outside here on the right, because we need to bring the car back to the left to open up our entry line for the right. So bring the car all the way back to the left side of the road, and as we get to the H&R side on the left side of the track there, we're going to start braking, but we're only going to brake just very lightly, enough to trail the car in towards the inside here, and then be very patient getting back on throttle, because if you get on throttle too early, you're just going to go straight into the sand on exit. So be patient on throttle, and then if you can, choose a little bit of on throttle rotation to get yourself a little bit more time out of there. Again, just be very careful to not touch that sand. Very precise lines required through there to get the most out of it. Now this bend's very simple, flat out quite easily, and now up towards this chicane. This could be one of the most difficult parts of the track in my opinion. We're braking a couple car lengths before the 50 board there, and this requires an even more precise line because there's a sausage curb on the left side here which you cannot afford to touch at all. As soon as you touch that, you just get shot off to the right side of the track. So get as close to it as you can and bring the car to the left without touching that sausage curb. We can cut all the curb on the right side of the track here. Don't get too far onto that grass because that'll unstabilize you and you'll go bouncing all over the show and exit. I use a little bit of that exit curb there and then back towards the right. We're looking for where that sort of greyish area is on the curb, and we're going to be braking 2 to 3 car lengths before that. And this turn up the hill here, there's actually less grip than you might think, so make sure you slow the car up enough and then keep quite tight. Don't get up on that inside curb, you don't want to do that. And then on exit, we're going to go over a bit of a crest here, right where I've pointed out on screen, and it's very easy to snap into an oversteer if you just hammer it on throttle over this crest, which I did get a little bit there, so just be careful. We're braking about 2 car lengths, maybe a car length and a half after this fence on the right ends here, and moving our car to the outside just where the white line is to open up our entry line. Then on apex here, we're coming as close as we can to the inside curb without touching it, because if you do touch that curb, it'll kind of bounce you around, and if you're on throttle when you do that, it'll very likely fling you into an oversteer. You can run out to this outside curb, just use a little bit of it. Don't hit it too aggressively though, because it'll probably flick you around if you do. And now we've gotten onto the Nordschleife part of the track. Very exciting. Now, we're looking for that 2 km board on the left there, and that's going to be about where we start to turn in for this turn. And we can go flat out, just come right next to this inside curb. Don't touch it, because I think that one's self-explanatory. If you touch that, things aren't going to go too well. But yeah, flat out through here, using all the track. Now back to the outside on the right here. Now for a braking reference, we're using that sort of triangle shape in the fence there. I'm going to be braking almost alongside that, quite hard initially, but I'm also going to start coming off the brakes as I turn, and then as I straighten up again after this bend, I'm going to start braking again in a straight line to make sure I reduce my speed enough to make this following right turn. This turn you can use the inside curb, but don't carry too much speed in, because if you do, it's very easy to understeer just on the exit of this little bend to the right here, which I get a little bit there, you might see. And back on throttle, just make sure you try to get the car back to the right a little bit to open up for this little left bend. You can probably carry just a little bit more throttle than I did through here, but don't touch that inside curb, same story, you'll go bouncing all over the show. And then we're getting on the brakes a car length or two before this curb starts on the right. Again, we've got to just reduce our speed a little bit to get on this inside curb, bring the car right around following this curb line. Don't get onto the dirt. But for this following left-hander, we have to be very careful, because if you touch the brakes too hard, it really flings you into a slide. So just be very careful here with your brake inputs. I touch it as lightly as I can and almost coast into the turn just to avoid that flick and slide. Again, just getting as close as we can to this inside curb without touching it, and then getting on throttle about halfway through the turn and carrying our speed to the outside curb. And after this, we're going to bring the car all the way back to the left side of the track. We have to open up our entry line for the following turn here. And again, we're looking out for that triangle shape on the fence on the right there. And we're going to be braking a little bit after that. That's where our braking point is going to be for this turn. And then bring the car back up onto this inside curb here. Now on exit, just be patient and don't hammer the throttle too hard. It's quite easy to flick into an oversteer if you're too aggressive. And on exit, it's not the end of the world if you do touch this curb on the left, but it's best to try avoid it to smoothen your exit as much as you can and get the most out of it. I think I just caught it a little bit there, it wasn't too bad. Now on exit, we're just avoiding that dirt on the outside to make sure we get the most out of this exit here. We want to carry as much speed as we possibly can, because we're flat out for a while now. We're heading up the hill, and after this crest over here, we can take this flat, by the way, this crest, and we can almost take this bend completely flat out. We're going to start turning as we get to the surface on the left side of the road here, and we're going to enter it really hard, and as we get close to the apex, we're going to lift just a little bit. We're doing this so that we don't run wide on exit. And don't touch that inside curb right there, because same story as most of the time, you're going to go bouncing and you'll probably end up in the wall. So very close to flat out through there. Once we've gotten through there, we've done just over a quarter of the lap. There's still a long way to go. So up the hill we're going to go again, and this coming turn is flat out, but you have to be quite precise again. You have to turn in quite early and hug this inside line. Start turning around where that 5 km sign is on the fence. And again, just keep quite tight here. If you turn in any later, you might swing into a really big slide, and it's really nasty. I've done that a couple of times, so just try hug this inside line as much as you can. And we're starting to get hard on the brakes just before the curb ends on the left there, staying all the way to the left side of the track. And we're going to trail in towards apex as we get deeper into the turn. Hugging this inside curb, just not getting onto it, and around halfway through we're going to start getting on the throttle again quite hard. There is quite a lot of grip coming through this turn. Onto the exit we can use this exit curb, but don't stay out there for too long, because you'll probably drop your left side wheels on the grass, and you don't really want that. Now we really get to pick up some speed going down the hill here. There's not too much to say other than just keep off the curbs going down here. This video has taken quite a long time to make, so if you have been enjoying it so far, I'd really appreciate it if you did leave a like. As we come up the hill again, we're sticking all the way to the right side of the road, and we're going to carry a lot of speed through here. Where that sign is on the right side on the fence there, we're just going to start touching the brakes a little before that, but not going to brake too hard for too long, because we want to carry a lot of speed over this inside curb on the left here. Don't go as far as the dirt, because I've done that once and it just threw me all over the show. But yeah, just use the curb, and we're going to probably get a little bit of instability, but not too bad. As soon as we start getting on the brakes, it'll straighten us up. There's that little mark on the fence that I've pointed out. We can start braking around about that, slowing the car down, stabilizing the car again, and then bringing it through the inside here, avoiding the inside curb by coming as close to it as we possibly can. Now we're looking for these markings on the track where I pointed out right there, or that sign on the fence on the right there, and we're going to start braking about alongside that, aiming a straight line, coming away from the inside, and then having a late apex on this turn here. This turn's actually quite a tricky one. It's taken me a long time to learn over the years, but a late apex is vital to get that one right there. Then we're keeping the car sort of towards the middle of the track. Don't go too deep too early, because if you make that turn tight for yourself, you're just going to cost yourself a lot of time. So towards the middle of the track, and then again having a later apex, and avoid getting up onto that inside curb because you'll just lose some grip there and traction. Then we're carrying our speed through to the outside. We can use the outside curb there just to maximize the speed we carry out of the turn. And now we head down towards another fast turn, and we're going to be taking the one up ahead, not quite flat out. Actually, we have to have a lift, but we don't have to fully lift off. We can reduce the throttle down to about maybe 20% and get away with it. We can see that thin strip of concrete on the outside of the track there. Right where that ends is kind of where we're going to start turning in. We want to lift off the throttle there, but not completely. At least in this car, you can carry a little bit of throttle through this whole bend to the left here, as long as we don't touch that inside curb as always. Then back to the outside of the track, and we're looking for this concrete on the right side ends, and we're going to be braking half a car length to a car length after that. Really hard on the brakes here, staying all the way to the right on entry, then trailing in and having quite a late apex on this left bend. Then we can pick up the throttle and start bringing the car back towards the left, because we want to miss this curb that we'll see right here. You don't want to hit that one, it'll kind of bounce you off and maybe even put you on the left wall over there, so around that we go. Then we're looking for this white sign on the left. We're going to start braking maybe half a car length before that, and we want to aim to go quite deep into this turn because the apex is very late. There's like a first apex which we're going to miss, and then that one over there, that's the one that we're aiming for, and we want to go around that. We don't want to apex too early here because you'll have to lift again and then get back on throttle and you'll cost yourself time. So quite a late apex there. This little chicane through here is flat out as long as you, again, avoid the curbs. And now for the turn that most of you might know is miss, hit, miss. So we're going to start braking just before the concrete on the left side outside the track ends, maybe half a car length before that. And then trailing in, and then we're looking for this middle apex here. That's the one we're aiming to hit, well, not actually hit. We're going to try to get as close to that inside curb as we can through there, and then start bringing the car back towards the left. Try not to get on the grass there. We're looking for that sign on the left side. That's kind of the closest braking reference we have here, and braking maybe 3 to 4 car lengths before that, and then really braking quite hard in here. This is one of the slowest turns on the track, and then really turning hard here in second gear. And then we're aiming for that point that I pointed out on screen, very late apex here, and then bringing the throttle on again just to avoid the oversteer there. And this little right bend that I just went through, it's easy to get a little bit of oversteer there as well, so just carefully balance your steering inputs. Now here we're going to be braking just before the curb on the right side ends. Again, we're going to get hard on the brakes here. We're starting to go downhill, so we're not going to have a heap of grip. We have to really be patient for the front end to bite here, and we want to have a sort of later apex on this bend to the left, and be patient to get on throttle. You don't want to end up wide on that curb on exit, because if you end up on that curb, it'll probably just unstabilize you or even pull you out towards where the wall is. You don't want that. So keep to the track here and start bringing the car back towards the left. This one's quite a tricky one as well, and it also requires quite a precise line. Aim to brake as the track starts to climb here, and then we can use this uphill camber here to really bite into the turn, and then we'll get to the apex right here without getting onto the inside curb as always. But there is a bit of a crest on exit, and if you're hard on the throttle going over that crest and turning too much, it'll likely flick you into an oversteer. So straighten your line up on exit as much as you can, or just be careful that you might get oversteer on exit. And on exit there, just don't go too far wide onto that exit curb, because it's easy to get on the grass then. You don't want that. Here we're looking for that black sign on the right side of the track, just outside the fence, and we're braking maybe a car length before we get to that. Staying all the way to the left, but we come in around about here, sort of in the middle of the track, and then having a very late apex here, getting on throttle, because again we're starting to go uphill again, and we're getting that camber, and the car's really starting to dig into the track and giving us that grip, which we can really make the most of there. Don't get wide on the outside of that curb on exit, because if you stick too far wide there, you'll end up on the grass. You'll get kind of stuck out there for a little bit, and you'll lose the exit speed, which is very important here. This is a very long straight, so you want to maximize your exit speed as much as you can through here. There is not a lot to talk about here, but there is this one bend right here, which you must make sure you get the straightest line through there as possible. And we're going to start thinking about the next turn, which is actually not too difficult in these cars in ACC. All you really need to do is just lift off the throttle a little bit and downshift a gear, and you can get back on throttle again and you're good. So we're looking for where that concrete on the right side ends there, and we're just going to lift a little bit and downshift to fifth. To be honest, you could probably carry even more speed than I did through there, and you'll be fine. Using all the track through there, you really want to maximize the speed you've carried through there. Through this right bend, we're flat out, and then we're moving towards the middle of the track here, because the track kind of curves around where you can't see it there, so don't go all the way to the left side. We're braking about a car length and a half before that curve on the left starts, hard on the brakes here, and then coming in towards the inside. We're going to hug the inside quite a lot there and start picking up the throttle. Just be careful with your throttle and steering inputs that you don't hammer them too hard, don't be too aggressive, because you'll throw yourself into an oversteer there. And almost had it there, just caught it and had a decent exit. Into this turn, we're looking for where the curb on the right sticks out a bit, and we're going to be braking right alongside that. Now for the Carousel, it can be quite an intimidating turn because it's very unique with its cambered concrete section right here. We're going to be aiming for the bottom of it. We're going to come as low as we can and carry our speed through, because there's a lot of grip there. As soon as we start moving up and dropping our wheels outside of this cambered bit, we're going to lose a ton of time. So keep low there and carry your speed through and start picking up your throttle towards the exit of the turn. Right there where I pointed out on the exit of the Carousel, there's a bit of a crest there, so just watch out. You might get a bit of wheel spin or oversteer, and then we're flat out again. We only have about 2.5 minutes left in the lap, so not too much longer to go. This turn right here is completely flat out, not too much of a difficulty in GT3 cars on ACC. For the section up ahead, this does get quite tricky. We're looking for this curb on the right there, going to start braking about where that curb starts. And again, this is one of those turns where we really just want to keep off the inside curb at all costs, because if we touch that inside curb, it's just going to bounce us straight to the other side of the track. So come as close to it as you can. Later apex here, and then bring the car through here and keep it towards the left, because we're going to open up our line for this turn here, which we also want to apex a little later through the bend. Now we can carry our speed through to the outside curb. Don't hit this curb too aggressively, because it can kind of flick you up and maybe even into the wall. So just come along this curb as parallel as you can, and then get onto the brakes about where that orange mark on the fence on the right is. And we're not going to brake too hard here. We do want to carry some speed into this turn, and then apex quite early. You can hug the inside line there. Apex right where I've pointed out on screen there. Get on the throttle fairly early in the turn, and then carry our momentum to the outside here. I did nibble on the outside curb, but there's not too much of a problem there. Now for this turn, we're going to start all the way to the left side of the track, and we can enter it flat out all the way to the right. We're going to hug this inside line, which you'll see right here. This turn up ahead's not as difficult as it might seem. You can carry a lot of speed through here. So once you've gotten through this bend to the right, we're going to start braking right before we get to the end of that curb on the right there, just reducing our speed enough to help us get through this turn to the left here. We can still carry quite a lot of speed in, and this turn, hug the left side there. We want to get our left side wheels back onto this inside curb here, which will open up our entry line for the right. And for the right side, we also want to use this inside curb, just cut completely across it, obviously not onto the grass, but we can go flat out through this bend to the right here, carrying our speed all the way to the outside, and we can even run onto the exit curb here. But don't go too far out into that concrete bit, because you'll probably end up on the grass once that bit ends. So we can position ourselves all the way to the left side here onto that exit curb. We'll just come off it a little bit, and we're going to start braking on that, or where that fence on the left side ends there, or as the track starts to go back up. And we do have a little bit of grip here as the track goes uphill, and we can carry quite a lot of speed through here and get on the throttle quite early in the turn. Just don't get on that inside curb. Just be patient with the throttle. You can get into an oversteer as we come over the crest there, carrying our momentum all the way to the outside here. Just don't get on the grass, because that'll be game over if you get out there for too long. And now we're looking for, well, we're getting back to towards the right side of the track. Again, we're opening up our entry line for the next turn. Next, we're going to be looking for this Ramus board that goes above the track here, and we're going to be braking right underneath that. This turn right here is going to be a bit of a double apex turn, so carrying quite a bit of speed in, trailing in, getting next to that inside curb, but we can get on the throttle quite early throughout this bend to the left here, and then carry our speed out towards the middle of the track a bit, and then we're coming back towards the apex later in the turn. Now we're on this concrete strip on the left here. We're going to be braking maybe about a car length before the end of that strip on the left. I did brake slightly too late there. I carried a little bit too much speed in and just missed this apex here, but it wasn't too bad. You want to apex as close to that inside curb as you can without hitting it. Now on exit, you don't want to get onto that dirt. I think I might have just caught it here because I went a little bit deep in. I would have cost myself maybe a tenth or two there. But yeah, not the perfect run through there that time around. Here we're going to be braking as we get to the end of the curb. In this turn we'll pick up quite a bit of grip because we're starting to go back uphill again and the car's pressing into the ground. But it is quite a long turn, so be patient. Don't get on the throttle too early because you'll push yourself wide and off the track if you do that. So just be patient, get on throttle, pick it up, and avoid oversteer and exit. We can use these exit curbs on the left here, but again, just don't hit that curb that I pointed out too aggressively because it can kind of bounce you up and around. Towards the left here, we're looking for where the track starts to go back up again, braking uphill here, which means we'll start to get a little bit more grip. And this is another sort of long turn. It's quite an awkward turn here. Again, being quite patient to get on throttle because it's easy to get on throttle early, and then you end up really wide on exit and put you in a bit of an awkward line. So just wait, and then get on throttle. You can cut across this curb on the right side here, but again, just don't get onto that dirt. If you've accelerated too early in that turn we just did, you'll possibly end up out there. Now down through the S's, we're going to be heading towards the dip now, and we're going to just dab the brakes quite lightly before we get through the dip. This is going to reduce how much we're going to jump. We want to keep the car on the ground as much as we possibly can. We don't want to throw the car so deep in the turn. This is not going to benefit us. Once we've got the car on the ground again, once we've landed, we're going to get back on the brakes just to slow the car down enough so that we can make this turn. We're going to apex quite early in this turn, and once we've got to the apex, that's when we can start picking up the throttle and just go flat out through here. So we can go flat through this right turn, and this is a blind turn. Keep quite narrow to the left there, that's where you'll make the apex. And for this turn downhill here, we're going to keep quite tight to the left here, because once you go over this crest, the front of the car is going to lift up a little bit, and you're kind of going to float to the right just a little bit there, so keep quite tight on the left there. Here, just try and avoid the curbs as much as you can. Oh, and we're getting closer towards the end of the lap now. So for the next braking point, we're looking for that tent on the right side of the track over the fence, and also that triangle on the left fence there. We're going to be braking a little after these reference points and not braking too hard. We're kind of trailing in around the bend to the right here. And here we're braking about a car length before the end of the concrete on the right there. This is the turn I've messed up the most on this lap. You'll see I've really missed the apex and gone wide very early in the turn. Really annoyed about that. Such a long lap and just a disappointing thing to do. Anyway, for this turn we're braking about 2 car lengths before the curb on the left starts. There's a couple braking references I pointed out there. And we're carrying a bit of speed into this turn because we've got quite a bit of camber in this turn as well. Just like the first carousel, we're going to keep quite low in this turn. We want to make sure we're really digging in there and don't go out because you'll lose grip. And then as we fall out of the carousel, there is another bit of a crest here. So again, like before, we're looking out for that oversteer and exit, carrying our speed through there. You could probably take that all through that small carousel in 3rd gear. For this turn, I find it quite confidence inspiring just to tap the brakes a little bit here to slow the car enough to make this apex without going flying onto the grass on exit, because you can carry quite a lot of speed through here. Maybe you don't need to actually touch the brake there, but doing it just gives me that confidence that I'm not going to end up on the grass on exit right here, because if you do end up on that grass, you're going onto that wall, you're losing a ton of time, you'll pick up damage. You don't want to do that, especially if you're doing the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. Don't do that. Now right here, I'd suggest you apex right where I have pointed out on screen there. So apex a little later than I did on this particular lap. I got to the apex a little early, and you might have seen there I had to make a little lift just towards the exit of the turn, which you really don't want to do because you'll cost yourself exit speed. So there's a few mistakes in the last sort of minute of this lap that I've done, and that's cost me probably about half a second. It's frustrating, but it's such a long lap, and to be honest, I really just don't want to spend my days trying to record nice clean laps, when what I've got here is a decent enough lap, and I'm sure that this will be enough to help you guys out. And I know where the mistakes have been made, so I'm just trying to point them out so that you guys learn from them and don't make the mistakes yourself. We've just got one more braking zone to get through before we complete this lap. We're looking for that curb on the right side there, just where it ends. We're going to be braking about a car length after that. Really hard on the brakes, but as we bend towards the left here, we might lift a little bit. As we straighten up again, get on the brakes again, and then we're trailing in towards the inside. Cut over this inside curb here, and then start picking up the throttle as we get onto the apex. And then make sure you don't carry too much speed in, because you might end up too far to the left there, which means you have to pull the car back to the right, and you might have to lift. Try to get your car towards the right as much as you can here, so you can just go flat out through this final bend. You saw I had to have a little lift there. I didn't quite nail it. So again, just a few mistakes in the last minute or so of this lap. But I was happy enough with it, and I hope this has helped you guys out. What I'm going to do now, like with all my other lap guides, is I'm going to play through the whole lap again without the interruptions. It's just going to be the lap without me talking. And then after that, if you guys want to see the pit entry guide, then stick around till the end of the lap, and I will see you then. With that very long lap out of the way, we can now take a look at the pit entry. We'll take that final chicane as we normally would, and then we're sticking towards the right side, we'll see that white pit dividing line there. We're looking for where the pit wall starts and also where that fence starts along the pit wall. We're going to be braking kind of between those two braking references there and braking really hard, just hard on the brakes all the way to the pit line, and we'll be 50 km per hour at the pit entry line. And that is this lap guide complete, and I hope you've enjoyed it. This has been the longest lap guide I've made. Of course, it's the Nordschleife plus the GP part of the circuit. Very long thing to make, and it's taken a long time to do. So I hope you guys have appreciated it. I hope it helps you out, and hopefully it will help you get the most out of this track. So as always guys, thank you all for watching. If you have anything you'd like to say or ask, then feel free to leave a comment. And my mouth and throat are dry from all this talking, so I'm going to go now. Goodbye.